Spain, Ireland and Norway moved to recognize the state of Palestine, Israel says the announcements send a message that terrorism pays.
5 people were wounded as firefighters battled fires in the city of Kharkiv after a number of Russian drones targeted the city. The Council of Europe's top advisory body says Georgia should repeal a foreign influence law that could be used to stifle dissent.
The European Parliament's 2 right-wing groups will one day join to form a bloc, Anders Vistesen of Identity and Democracy tells Euronews.
Spain, Norway and the Republic of Ireland said they are going to recognize the state of Palestine. Norway was the first to announce the move early on Wednesday, followed shortly by Madrid and Dublin.
This is an historic and important day for Ireland and for Palestine. On the 21st of January 1919, Ireland asked the world to recognise our right to be an independent state. Our message to the free nations of the world was a plea for international recognition of our independence, emphasising our distinct national identity, our historical struggle, and our right to self-determination and justice. Today, we use the same language to support the recognition of Palestine as a state.
Nos sumaremos a los más de 140 países del mundo que ya reconocen al Estado palestino y a esa amplia mayoría de países que hace 12 días votó a favor de la entrada de Palestina en las Naciones Unidas como Estado miembro de pleno derecho. Esperamos no ser los últimos, esperamos que nuestro reconocimiento y nuestras razones contribuyan a que otros países occidentales sigan este camino.
Sanchez and his Irish counterpart have been rallying for months to form a coalition of pro-Palestine EU countries. The recognition by Spain, Norway and Ireland is expected to be made official on Tuesday, the 28th of May. Slovenia, Malta and Belgium also signalled they may soon follow suit. The latest war between Israel and Hamas, which caused the death of over 35,000 people between civilian and soldiers, as well as millions of displaced, saw a decisive push towards a two-state solution, which is also backed by the UN and the United States. So far, Israel has firmly refused such an agreement. Israel's Foreign Minister Israel Katz said that Wednesday's events send a message to the Palestinians and the whole world that, quote, terrorism pays.
The Irish government says it strongly rejects any criticism by Israel that this action plays into the hands of Hamas. They say Hamas is not the Palestinian people and reiterated calls for them to release the hostages back to their loved ones immediately. But the Prime Minister says it's time to breathe new life into the two-state solution, to give hope to the people of Gaza suffering unbearably, and as he says, give hope to the children of Gaza who go to sleep at night not knowing if they'll ever wake up.
Five people were wounded as firefighters battled fires in the city of Kharkiv overnight into Tuesday after a number of Russian drones targeted the city. Authorities said drone strikes had damaged both residential properties, outbuildings and vehicles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Tuesday that the situation remains extremely difficult in the eastern Donetsk region. Russia's offensive, which it launched last week, is significantly pressuring Ukraine's already outnumbered and outgunned forces. Ukraine desperately needs more help from the West. The Russian Defense Ministry on Tuesday released footage which it claimed shows a ruined village Planenivka in the Kharkiv region seized by the Russian army. The video says Ukrainian forces had used the village as a point from which to target Russia's Belgorod region. The Defense Ministry claimed the village was seized in the middle of May. The Council of Europe's Venice Commission says Georgia should repeal a foreign influence law that sparked a wave of protests and allegations claiming the government was trying to stifle dissent. Georgian Parliament approved the bill in its third and final reading last week. The divisive bill has sparked weeks of mass demonstrations, with critics seeing it as a threat to democratic freedoms and the country's aspirations to join the EU. The bill would require media, NGOs and other non-profits to register as pursuing the interests of a foreign power if they receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad. Georgia's government says the bill will stem harmful foreign influence over the country, but others worry the law is too similar to a Russian strategy used to crack down on dissent.
French President Emmanuel Macron is visiting New Caledonia to try and stop the riots that have been devastating the remote overseas territory for more than a week. Chaos broke out after the French government began debating changes to the voting system in the Pacific Ocean island. Opponents say the measure benefits pro-France politicians and marginalizes the local Kanak population, who once suffered from strict segregation policies. 6 people have been killed, including 2 policemen, and hundreds have been injured in the clashes. The local airport has been closed for commercial flights, and France imposed a curfew and deployed an additional 1,000 security personnel to try and bring the situation under control. Meanwhile, Australia and New Zealand are flying back to their home countries dozens of citizens. The French government said Prime Minister Gabriel Attal should also be traveling to the island in the coming weeks.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has said 3 more suspects thought to be Russian have been arrested on charges of foreign hostile action. The total number of arrests is now 12. The PM also warned against Russian and Belarusian migrants storming the Polish border.
Dzisiaj dostaliśmy potwierdzenie i to jest oczywiście niepokojący scenariusz, potwierdzenie tego, że presja na granicę wschodnią Polski to nie jest migracja spontaniczna ludzi, którzy uciekają z różnych krajów. W tej chwili te dane są naprawdę bardzo precyzyjne dane, bardzo niepokojące. Ponad 90% tych, którzy przekraczają polską granicę nielegalnie, to są ludzie dysponujący rosyjskimi wizami.
Tusk also announced a commission to investigate Russian and Belarusian interference in Poland, focusing on the years 2004 to 2024.
Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas has left the annual Spring Storm military exercises showcasing NATO cooperation. Yet, she warns Russia is carrying out a shadow war against the West. Her nation, which borders Russia, has seen a rise in alleged sabotage, electronic warfare and spying.
We all understand that, that these hybrid attacks are still very acute, and we have to be ready also for these. So it doesn't matter, is it a cyber attack, is it some other type of attack? So we are ready for that, and we are responding to that, and our message has always been clear. In this territory, in Estonia and all the allies, we are controlling that, and we are not allowing anyone to disrupt our normal behavior and normal society here.
Estonian officials and security experts indicate there is no collective mechanism for dealing with Russian threats. They are calling for a more proactive approach by the EU.
The European Parliament's 2 hard-right groups could join to form a bloc. That's the prediction of Anders Vistisen, who's been fronting the far-right group of parties campaign ahead of the European elections. Speaking with Euronews, Vistisen said that there is no real political divide between his Identity and Democracy party, which includes Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National, and the less hardline European Conservatives and Reformists, which includes Giorgia Meloni's Fratelli d'Italia.
There is no more political divide between the ID and the ECR than what you can see within the EPP, the S&D or the Renew parties, for instance.
So could you see those 2 right-wing groups reorganizing themselves, particularly after the elections? Could you see a possible unification of those two groups?
Yeah, I think you'll see that someday. You already have it in the Council of Europe, where the two groups have merged together in a dual party. I think maybe not just after this election, but I think the French presidential elections that are coming up in a couple of years could be a point in time that is very interesting to look forward to.
Vistisen spoke hours before a crisis erupted within his party. Marine Le Pen's team said their party would no longer sit with Germany's AfD over damning comments made by their lead election candidate Maximilian Krah, claiming Nazi SS members were not all criminals. Krah has since been banned from campaigning. Another AfD candidate is facing allegations he was paid by Russia to spread pro-Kremlin propaganda. Vistisen himself was interviewed earlier this year by Voice of Europe, the news company now sanctioned by the EU, suspected of being at the heart of the Russian influence operation. You gave a one-on-one interview to Voice of Europe earlier this year. Were you paid for that interview?
No, of course not. That interview was set up at the same premise as this interview. I was asked to give an interview and I obliged. That's my job as a politician. But it is worrisome that this outside influence is also generally used to spread misinformation about the right. I have a impeccable record when it both comes to being firm on Russia, firm on China.
But despite these multiple scandals, Vistisen's European party is surging in the polls and could compete to become the parliament's third biggest force. The other right-wing group, the ECR, has consistently rejected a potential merger. You can watch the full interview on Euronews' Global Conversation.